Okay, hello everyone. You just caught me cleaning my stencils. Okie doke. Hello, how is everyone? Can you all hear me? I hope that you can. Hello, hello, hello. Who have we got with us? Let me just check that you can hear me. I think my microphone's working. Oh, hi, Natalia. Is everything working okay, Natalia? Can you hear me okay? Yes, you can hear. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Lorraine. That's good to know. Yes, sorry, you just caught me cleaning my stencils. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Lynn. So who have we got with us? Who have we got? We have... Hi, Linda from Dudley. Lovely to have you here. And Linda, Baz, hi, Claire and everyone. Looking forward to today's lives. I haven't had a chance to use my candle set. Oh, you haven't used your candle set yet? Oh, perfect. This is what I'm using today. It was actually... by request, this live. I can't remember the name of the lady who requested it. Maybe it was yourself, Linda. Having a play with the partial embossing. Oh, how are you getting on with that? Hopefully my explanation was good enough for you. One of the great things about YouTube, though, is you can stop and start the video. So you can re-listen to the same section more than once if you need to. Who else do we have? We have Sharon from Canada. Hello. Lorraine from sunny Romford. That sounds lovely. Patricia, Natalia. We have Lynn and Kathy. Brilliant. Oh, hi, Janet. As the weather changes, time to get crafty again. Yeah, I think my mum was saying exactly the same thing this morning, actually. She's feeling more inclined as the days get a bit chillier to sit inside and look out at the sun through the window, because it was sunny here yesterday, but you actually stepped outside the front door and it was a bit chilly. But I can't complain. It was nice and bright. Okie doke. Oh, it was one of them, Linda, requesting the candles. Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, no, it's good to actually have requests because, as I say, we've got the YouTube channel and the idea eventually is to have a video, or at least one video, on every single one of Lisa's sets that she's brought out. But that is quite some feat as well. You know, there's an awful lot. But we're slowly getting there. We're slowly working our way through. So, yeah, it's a nice challenge to have, isn't it? Okay. So thank you for joining me this afternoon then. I'm just going to pop up the slide for today. It's quite straightforward what I'm using today actually. You know me, if I like to just focus on one set of products, I don't actually put a huge amount around with it as well, because I just like to show you sort of the outcome really. So I'm using, as I say, the candles. It's an A6 set and I've listed them there with the item numbers also. Alongside that, I've decided that I am going to use some of Lisa's Shabby Chic cardstock, and I'll actually be stenciling onto this today. So as well as using it for backgrounds and die cutting with it, I just want to show you what lovely quality it is to stencil onto, as is all of Lisa's paper and cardstock. And also the sentiments that I'm using are the festive tatty words. Now I've looked through my stash and I'm actually quite limited on the amount of festive sentiments that I have. So apologies if this one's not in stock. The chances are that you have these ones yourself, or you have other sentiments that are your favourites. Yeah, I think I really need to sort that out. I think I need to have a look at what other sentiments Lisa has for Christmas. I know that there were some, let me see. I do have, oh yeah, the word strips. I know there is a festive set of these, the word strips, and I keep meaning to try and get hold of them myself, but I keep forgetting. So there'll be a really good option for this. If not, you may have some of the real chunky Christmas sets as well, like bold words and things, and these they'll be perfect to use with any of the Christmas sets actually. So what I thought I'd do today really is straightforward stenciling, just so as you can see how this stencil comes together. Now if I just tilt that a little bit, you will see that the ink that I've used on here, you'll be able to see it on the candles, are the new limited edition metallic ink. So they came to me, I can't remember if it was yesterday or Friday, but today was the first chance I've had to play with them. And you can see here I've done something slightly different. This isn't my favourite colourway, but you just need to try these things, and mainly because I'm using red, and red isn't a colour that I'm happy to use actually. It's really strange. But it's a different colour combination for you. I've tried to do the poinsettias in a white, so I've used a mix of the red ink and anthracite ink to create the look or the effect of a white poinsettia. And I've used the new ink. So the red is the Jingleberry that we have here, which is the limited edition. This is just the matte blending ink. It's not one of the interference inks. And the mistletoe here, or the foliage around this, is the Merry Mistletoe ink. So it's really nice for you to see these in action. And also you can see that the emblems on the candles, which you can leave or add on, it's entirely up to you actually. That can be optional. And if I remember, I'll sort of prompt you to when I get to that stage as to whether you want to use it or not. But you can see that I've used the solid gold ink, and that's layered really, really lovely on top of the matte blending ink there, and also these little accents, that is the solid gold as well. And you can see also in the background here, I've actually made a 5x7 inch card. This is the size of the card that I'm using, but the actual sets here, and I shall take the embossing folder out, the actual set and the design itself is an A6. So what I've done just around the outside on the backing here, which is larger than the A6 of the design, I've just added some extra dimension, extra stenciling, and I'll show you how I've done that also. Now the other reason I'm looking at this, and I'm perhaps not quite feeling this quite so much, is I forgot to emboss it. And I do this all the time, so I'm going to try my very, very best to remember to emboss what I stencil for you today. But had I have embossed this, I think this would have not looked quite so flat. And if I just bring in this piece, which I done when these first came out, actually, this is actually embossed. And if I turn that over, you can see that there. Now, what I've done here, I've actually added some foiling. And And I've added a little bit of foiling just around the inside of the candles there. Also, this I done before we had the lovely metallic inks. So I'll be using this a little bit later on, I think, or possibly not. I'll show you later on what I'm thinking with this. So yeah, that was the 5x6, and obviously I've used the tatty words, and I've used any shiny card would be perfect to add the sentiment on there. I've also done it in a black, which I thought came out super. And again, I forgot to emboss this, apologies, but I think actually it stands alone in itself, and it's quite a good example for those of you who perhaps only get the stencils and not the embossing folder with this, that you can still make something just as stunning even though it's not embossed. But these are the just the inks, the metallic inks, the limited edition ones. So this literally is just 3 colours. This is the solid gold, which you can see is the poinsettias and the bubbles around the outside. The copper pot is what I've stenciled the candles with, and then the silver shine is the foliage around the outside. And you can also see the emblem on the candle, which I've done slightly different this time around. I've actually layered the silver on top of the gold, which is then sits on top of the copper pot. So these are layering inks as well. Just as well as the matte blending inks, your metallic inks, if you have them, they are able to blend as well. So I'm actually really happy with that one. You can see as I turn that towards the light, the sheen, that picks it up. And now this is dried, these metallic inks do not smudge. And in all the years that I've been stamping and using inks, I've been so let down by metallic inks over the past that to be honest, I haven't actually got any in my stash. I haven't had metallic inks from any other company for a good 5, 6, 7 years maybe. I just haven't used them because I've been so let down with them. But using these ones today from Lisa, they were just a joy. They went onto the page exactly how I would want them to, and you can see for yourself. And now that they've dried, you can see that they don't smudge at all, and the intensity of the color is brilliant when they dry. So yeah, I can't rate these enough. But I think we don't take it for granted from Lisa, but if she brings something new to us, she really does make it worth our while to have. And these inks, I think, are absolutely no exception. So if you get a chance to get those, they really will be worth your while. And you know what, I've just got to do this. Sorry while I reach over. Lisa, you're not making it easy for me to keep my craft room tidy. They come in these lovely little boxes, and they're just so cute. And I'm a sucker for packaging. And if it's a lovely little box and it's arrived to me undamaged, I really struggle to get hold of them. So at the moment, they're just stacked in front of me on my desk, and I'll just sit and look at them for a little while. So Lisa, you're not doing very much to help me tidy up at all. Anyway, that's by the by. Right, let's get stenciling, shall we? Right, you've got the details there. I'm just going to take off that slide from the side there. If I remember, I will put it back up at the end. Okie dokie, so let's get myself organised. Doesn't seem like I've stenciled with you for quite a while, actually. So I can bring in my Ultimate 2. And I'm going to leave my embossing folder out so I remember to emboss, because this would have looked stunning embossed as well, wouldn't it? It looks great as it is, but okay. Right, so you remember I said I'm actually going to stencil onto Lisa's Shabby Chic cardstock, and I'm using this one, which I've already used this before, but this is absolutely my favourite, and the colours I think are just perfect for Christmas. So let me see where I'm going with this. Yeah, I'm just going to stencil the image as is. So this is an A6 image. It does give me the option to pick where I want to stencil onto, but I do want to have these panels running down the way. So that's the way that I'm going to use them. And I shall do that around about there, I think. So hopefully you'll be able to see. Let's make it a little bit tricky onto the coloured cardstock, but I think it's a really interesting technique. I mean, all of these obviously will work if you use plain cardstock, and a nice cream cardstock would look lovely for this as well. So I'm also using almond frosting, which is from edition 2 of Lisa's inks, and I really like this for the candles themselves. So now this almond frosting actually is a perfect tone to match with this cardstock. And I think I was asked a question once not so long ago, when these papers come out, do the colour tones match sort of exactly with the inks that Lisa's brought out? Now, the answer to the question basically is no. I don't think she's made a particular point in matching the colours, but when you design, you tend to stay with the same colour families in mind, and I think that's what Lisa has done. So because of all the number of inks that Lisa has brought out and the colour tones that I know that she likes to use, there is always going to be some correlation between the papers and the inks. So, and you'll find that with the other paper set that she brought out, the Splash of Colour, I think it was called. The tones of the colours within that paper set are going to match with the tones of the inks that Lisa has brought out also. So I've used the almond frosting there. And I'm just going to get my solid gold ink out here. Now I've labelled up brushes for my metallic ink. So at the moment I've just got one of the chunky brushes per ink colour that I have. So, and I've been using the metallic inks with these chunky brushes all morning, so you can see really how well that these brushes do actually put the ink down onto the card. So that's what I'm going to use now. So I'm just using the metallic gold or the solid gold to put these decorations around. I'm not quite sure what they are. I call them bubbles, but I think they really are just accents. And again, I think this is part of the design. If you don't want to add this part of the design, you don't have to. You can just leave that off of the stencil. I'm going to do the flame in the gold as well. Okay, so that's the first layer. Now, admittedly, those candles don't jump out at you very much, but we will, you know, I've got a plan for that a little bit later on. So come in with stencil number 2. This is where we start putting on the colour for our poinsettias. Now I am going to go red with these ones. And I think this red would look stunning against this wood grain or the wood panel effect. And again, I'm using a chunky brush and I'm using the Jingleberry. So it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it, if it's a Christmas ink and we're making a Christmas card. Just stands to reason. So I'm going to put plenty of ink on there, and again these chunky brushes just put this ink down really quickly. So I'm going to do that one a little bit lighter. There we are. That really stands out so well, doesn't it? So stencil number 3 again is the detailing for the poinsettias, and I'm just going to swap brushes, actually just slightly smaller brush, so I've got a little bit more control over where I go, so that way I can add shading and get some depth into that element. So what you can see there, that I've just gone round and round in that centre. I'm not necessarily extending the colour out to the petals, and that will give us an element of give us that element of shading without trying too hard, actually. So it's going to be darker in the centre of the flower, just slightly darker in the centre of the flower than towards the tips. And that just helps give the illusion of lots of layers and lots of depth. So, but just before I move on from that, I'm just going to pick up, have got my anthracite ink just to the side here, and the little brush. I'm not going to pick up any of the ink actually. I'm going to use what is on the brush, if anything at all, and just going around the center of that flower. Actually, you can see there the black that I've put on. You need a tiny amount, just creating that little element of shadow just around that central area, and that will just add to the depth of those flowers, just giving you that that look of the 3D. And again, that will actually be enhanced when we put it into the embossing folder. So we've got the center of the flowers now here, and I think I'm never 100% sure what color to use. I'm going to put some black into the center. I think I am going to make that quite bold, just to make a statement. So that's the anthracite ink going into there. Okay, now this is where we have the detailing on the candles. You can see the motifs here. If you want to leave the candles free, then you absolutely can. It isn't going to look unfinished if you were to do that, but obviously we've got the motifs for the candles. So I think what I might do, I might just put one on and leave the other free, just so as you can see that it really is optional to you. So I'm just thinking of the colour that I'm going to use. I think I'm going to come in initially with the almond frosting, and I'm going to go really dark, or put as much on as I can. It's going to be very tonal, but you'll see a little bit later there is another, actually this is the backing to the motif. We will be layering another colour on top of this, so we want to create like a shadow effect. So I am going to just do this one and leave this one free, just to show you how versatile this is, just to show you that it doesn't look unfinished. And you can see there that even I've used the same colour tone on top of the almond frosting, it's still very visible. So we've got stencil number 5, and this is where tiny little bit of foliage coming in there. You can't see that there. Let me hold that. There we are. Tiny little bit of detail there, but you can add the detail to your foliage. So that will be berries there, and if you want to add this in a slightly different green, that you can. And obviously then we've got the detail for the poinsettias. So I'm going to do that detail on the poinsettias. I'm going to do it black again. I'm just going to go really gentle, but I think that really does work nicely. It just highlights it, brings them poinsettias, the detail of it out really quite well. We do have the centre of the flowers, and I think what I might try and do is use the gold and just go into the centre of that flower. Now my brush is quite big, but I think if I just pounce into the centre of the flower there, I'm not too fussed if it goes into the rest of the detail, but we'll give it a go. Shall I? Let me see if I can just zoom you in a little bit. Hopefully, there we go. That might make it a little bit easier for you to see. So I'm just picking up a little bit of the gold ink, and I'm just going to pounce it into that detailing there, because that will sit nicely on top of that anthracite ink. So let me just have a look. Oh yeah, that's worked really nicely. I shall hold that up and show you in a second. And then I think while I've got the gold ink in my hand, I shall put that extra little detail for the top of the candle in gold. And as I say, we have these little details. We have little berries sitting there. And we have a little bit of foliage just there. So we use our small brush for the green. We have a little area down here, which I always forget when I'm stenciling this. So I'm just remembering to do that now. I shall do that in green. And I think what I'll do, if you're ever unsure I think that's meant to be snow, this little bit at the bottom, but I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you. You can do whichever colour suits. If you ever stuck as to what colour to use for any of your stenciling, particularly when you're stenciling for the first time, always refer back to Lisa's packaging. And I've always said, even if it's not the colours that you necessarily want your project to be, it will give you an idea of the details that are there. So even if just for the first time, just to orient yourself, I'll say this is meant to be snow, isn't it? See, my brain hasn't quite got into Christmas yet. Obviously this is snow. I always do it in gold. I don't know why. Maybe I'm thinking bubbles, maybe champagne bubbles. I really must get my brain into Christmas mode. As I say, yes, this is meant to be snow, falling snow, so it makes sense that this little section here is the same colour as the falling snow. But I think it works the way that I do it as well. Yeah, but always refer to Lisa's packaging, particularly if you are stenciling for the first time. It gives you a really good grounding for the image as a whole. So now we've got the last stencil. So this is where we can bring in our green and the detailing on the motif for the candles. Remember, I'm leaving this one free, and I will stencil onto this one as well, just to show you. And I shall do this in the gold, I think, because that will layer really nicely on top of the almond frosting. Now, right at the beginning, you saw me cleaning my stencils, and that was just after I had stenciled using all the metallics onto the black card, and the metallic ink comes off just as easily from these stencils as all the other matte blending inks. I just give it a quick spritz with water. This is just normal tap water, saves me going to the kitchen every time. And then I just use a microfiber cloth, which is always kept behind me because little Hazel will run off with these. She thinks it's a great game. So I've just bought myself a new set, actually, because the other ones have been whisked off all various corners of the house. So now we're going to do the foliage, and this again will, using the Merry Mistletoe, will pop really quite nicely onto this wood panelling that we're stenciling onto. So I'm using the large chunky brush, and I'm putting down a lot of ink. And these stencil brushes are great for that. You can pick up an awful lot of ink, and these ink pads actually are really juicy. So we can get into all of those details. Even, you know, this is really fine detail, and this is the largest brush, I think, that we have out of the 6 sizes that we have, and it works perfectly well. So I'm going to come down into these details down here. I am going to swap to a smaller brush here, mainly because I want to avoid this motif here. I want to keep it free from green as well. So just by swapping to a smaller stencil brush, I've just got that control. And then I can just carry on adding those details into all of those. So if you ever wondered why you need all the different size brushes, then that would be a reason why. But if you can only manage to have one set, then I would say you get the set that comprises of, I'll show you, the initial set, the first sets that Lisa brought to us. The stencil brushes come in sets of 3 like this, and this is such a useful size because even the largest brush, yes, it's smaller than the chunky brushes, but it's a really nice size even to cover large areas. So when I take that away, you can see that image has really come together really nicely. And I've done my stenciling now, so I can move that. And if I lift that up to you and I just catch the light, there you go. You can see that the gold is sitting really nicely on top of the anthracite ink there, and also on top of the candle there. That's a really subtle motive, but you can see equally that this candle sitting here doesn't have any detail on it, and that looks just as good as well. So that it gives you that option. And we have gold, gold snow. Why is it only taking me now to realise what that was? Oh well. Okay, so we have that stenciling done there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim this to size. Which is quite straightforward to do. You just follow the guidelines of where the design stops, like so. And I think actually when you cut it down, it changes the whole look of the piece also. So let me just move these to one side. I am going to emboss this now while I remember. So there is only one way this can go into the embossing folder, which is quite handy, and it's nice and easy to line up. And you can see that the blending of the inks onto those pattern papers is perfect. It works really well, and these will also emboss lovely as well. So I'm just going to be back with you in a tick. Okay, so there we are. That's now embossed, and it's really, oh, won't bring it, there you go. To turn that over, you can see that that's been embossed, and these papers emboss beautifully as well. So if you're using these papers just as a backing and you want to emboss them with a background embossing folder, they would work lovely. Now, remember what I said about this candle? I didn't stencil the motive onto there, but there is an embossed detail on there which is so subtle in the background. I don't know if you'll be able to catch it, but that works just really, really nicely, even without any colour on it as well. So I'll show you how I'm going to put the card together. So we have our 5x7 card. I'm going to put a backing onto there. Now, before I do that, I want to put some stenciling onto there as well. Now, I also want to just back or layer this onto a piece of green cardstock. Oh, oopsie daisies, to bring that out. Ooh, the glue's gonna, there we are. So I'm gonna glue this onto here. Ooh, nearly time to swap bottles by the looks of it. There we are. That'll just about work, I think. There we go. I'm backing this onto green. I really like this frosty green card that I have. I've had it for years, so I have no idea where it's come from. But it works really nicely with all of Lisa's Christmas designs, I think. So we're partway there. I'm just going to take this back in. So this is just smaller than 5x7. So it layers really nicely onto the 5x7 card. And I'm bringing my ultimate back in because I want to add detail onto there. And I'm going to take stencil number 6 from the stencils that I have here. I don't need to worry about cleaning it because I'll be using the same colours. And I want to stencil just the foliage around the outside, just to frame this image that I have here. Now, obviously, this stencil is a lot smaller than the card that I'm working onto, but this part of the foliage creates a really nice corner, and I'm going to use that to line up with the cardstock, which means it makes no difference to how big this cardstock is. I'm just going to hold that in place, and I'm going to put my stencil back onto the pegs. Now, if this cardstock was a little bit longer, obviously that wouldn't fit down here. What you can do is not just move up your stencil and just use some of the pegs. You don't have to use all of the pegs all of the time if it means that you want to use a larger piece of cardstock or just position. Now, what it does mean, if you want to then carry on using your stencils, that to layer, you must remember that you're not using these two pegs, and you shift the whole lot upwards as you go. But as long as you remember that, you'll be fine. So you can either put a piece of tape over that just to remind yourself, or put a piece of tape over the holes on the stencil that you're not using just to remind yourself. But as I say, it makes this ultimate even more versatile to stencil onto cardstock, which is a different shape to the stencil, or a different size to the stencil that you're using. So having lined all of that up now, I've got my stencil brush and I'm just coming back in with the Merry Mistletoe, and I'm just stenciling that foliage around the outside like that, just this top corner here. Okay, as we go. Now there's another little bit of foliage at the bottom here, which I think might be quite nice to add to this bottom corner here. If I line this part of the foliage up where I want that to be on the cardstock, there, you'll see that obviously I can't use the pegs this time. So what you can do, because this doesn't involve any layering, it doesn't matter too much where you position your cardstock on the ultimate, because we are only using this one layer. You don't need to then make other layering stencils correspond, but keep your work jutted up against the edge of your ultimate, or even at the bottom, but as long as it's secure and not going anywhere, say either at the bottom, oh, that's just out of shot, either at the bottom or at the top. And then I'm using this part of the stencil. You could actually turn this around if thinking about it. That would work really nicely. I haven't done that. Let me do that now. And okay, so what I've done, let me just show you on this black one here. What I've done is exactly, I've used this lower part of the foliage and lined that up, and that's at the bottom there. As you can see, that works out really nicely because it's just a small part and it's not too much, and it mirrors what we have here. But if you wanted to have this larger section, you can just swing your stencil around and that will give you exactly the same corner as we have up there. So let me just show you that, as I haven't done that yet. So I'm lining that up in exactly the same way as I did here. Again, I don't need to worry about the holes of the stencil there, because I don't need to line up any other stencils to correspond. You could tape the stencil into place as well if that makes it easier for you. I'm happy enough just to hold that in place while I stencil. I'm not going to stencil quite as much actually, so I'm going to have that a little bit more subtle, I think. So there we are. We've now created our frame for our image to sit into. So we haven't had to dig around for pattern paper. And it's just something a little bit different to using a coloured cardstock around the outside, and that really frames that really quite simply as well onto that card. Now, how are we doing for time? Perfect timing actually. What we'll do, I'm going to stencil again. So again, I don't worry about having not cleaned my stencils, because I'm going to come in now and use exactly the same colours. And all I want to do is just stencil the candles and the flowers actually, because we don't have a die for this particular design, but these candles are enough of a shape that makes it easy for them to cut out freehand. So that's what I want to show you. Now you'll see on what I've stenciled here already that although the colour really pops out with the wood grain in the background, the candles don't particularly. I think they do well enough actually. I mean, and if I perhaps used a darker colour and maybe a darker brown that they would, but I think it might be nice just to make them stand out a little bit more. So again, I'm just going to stencil again, this time onto the same coloured cardstock that I've used for the background. So it's a cream this time round. So I'm going to be really gentle. I'm not going to put, let's blend this one a little bit more because there's a little bit more ink on there. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to have one side of the candle a lot darker than the other. So we can come in and do that. I'm not going to worry about the flame either, just the candle, I think. Okay, so we've done that. And so I can come in now and do now this is the point in question actually. For some reason I missed out the bottom peg of my ultimate. That doesn't matter, but it does. I just need to remember that when I add the other stencils, and you saw that I went to add the stencil like that and it didn't line up, so I just need to move that up just slightly and we're all back on track again, so that's fine. So it's say it doesn't matter which of the pegs you use. Obviously if you use them all, your stencils are a lot more stable than perhaps using one of them, but if only one of them is what you can use because of the shape and the size of your cardstock, then use some tape or some magnets with your magnetic mat and you'll be absolutely fine. So I'm coming in and do the poinsettia there, and I'm doing this a lot quicker this time round because I want to show you that one that you can just stencil just some of the image, and also I want to fussy cut these out for you as well. So I'm going to come in and get these stenciled really quick. This is a lovely red actually, and it is quite different to the other reds that we have. It's hard to describe how, but I think we've probably got two or three, probably three reds in the collection over all three releases of inks now, and I think that they will all work lovely together. This one is, well, because of the name, it's a lovely red also. So I'm going to do the same again here. Actually, I'm just going to stencil the one motif on the one candle. Okay, let's come in with the black here. It looks quite drastic, doesn't it, when I put the black on like that? But don't be frightened of using black. Sometimes it's the only colour that you need to use. And imagine if that was poppies, that red and black together works so well, doesn't it? So a little bit of black just on the detail for the flowers. Again, don't be frightened of the black. I'm not using any more ink. I'm just using what is left on my brush. And I'm going to come in, put the gold detail on top of these candles. Just dab that into the centre of the flowers. And then come in with the foliage, but all I'm using is that bottom part actually, I think, just so we don't have any gaps or unstenciled gaps when we fussy cut out these candles in a second. So, but I don't need to worry about the rest of the foliage at the top here. Okay, so we've got that done nice and quickly. Oops, oh, there we are. We forgot the detailing on the candle there, didn't we? So let's come back in and do that with the gold. I really like this gold, and it's a nice coloured gold actually. I mean, I've used golds in the past as well where they've been really too yellow or too brash, or they don't really sit very right, but this is a proper old, almost an antiqued gold. So it's a really nice classy gold actually, I'd say. So what we want to do, I will emboss these. And what I am going to do is take off the top of this cardstock because I don't need that. And that has meant that it isn't fitting in my folder. So I'm going to line this up again, and I'm going to emboss this. Okay, so I'll be with you back in a minute. And actually what I will show you now, you should be able to see the emblems on the candles, or the detailing on the candles are a lot clearer this time round. Oh, let's just put your chat on, let's see if you're all still with us. Oh, hi, is that Lisa with us as well? Hi, Mum. So I haven't been looking at your comments there. Yes, so if I show you that now, perhaps if I tilt that there, you can see that although I haven't stenciled the detailing on this candle here, you do have the embossed detail on there, which I think is really, really lovely to have. But again, if you want to stencil the detail on there as well, it will also emboss and give you that the details. So yeah, there's one of two ways of doing it. It's nice to have the option there. So what I want to do now is I want to fussy cut out these candles. Now I'm going to use my trimmer just to go straight along the bottom. Oh, and up the side as well, I think, because that will make sure I am going straight. There we go. And then I can use my scissors. Yep, big scissors are back. and I can just fussy cut around. Now I find actually that if I were to do this, and I'm not a fan of fussy cutting at all, that if you emboss first, it gives you a really nice clear line to follow. Now you could also, I think you could, should we do that? Yeah, I think I will do that. You can actually cut out the candles individually. You can cut them out as a pair, I think, but I think also it works if you do this individually. And the reason why I say that is because, well, I'll show you in a second actually. We can just follow that nice embossed line. You could have left the flames on the top as well. I think that would work also if you wanted to 3D those on. Which is probably easier to cut when you don't have people watching you. So I can just shape that off like that. So yeah, the embossing lines actually give you a really nice line to follow. So what I can do now, the reason why I wanted to emboss this is because it really makes those candles stand out. For one, that they're going to be 3D, so they're going to be more prominent anyway. So let me find some foam pads. But also because I like the candles stenciled a lot paler, they did sort of melt into the background a little bit with the wood grain, which isn't necessarily ideal. So I think just to finish it off, we can stencil onto this, onto a cream cardstock, and it really it will make them just pop. So I could do with another foam pad actually. Oh, let's just get one more. Okay, there we are. So take off those. Oof. Not very hot all of a sudden. Okay, so we can layer those onto there. And the reason why I wanted to do this, actually cut them separately, actually, and we'll separate the two candles, because what it gives you that depth of those candles in between where the wood grain is still visible. Now, just before I put that down, I'm just going to shape that slightly and put that on. I should have perhaps done that with the other one as well, but I think you still get the idea there. There we are. You can see the way those candles are sitting there, and you can still see the depth between the two there, and you can still see the wood grain, which I think makes that more, yeah, I think that works really nicely. What's that? Is there a video showing how to add embossing powder? Oh no, I haven't used embossing powder for a long time actually, so I haven't done any videos. So what I can do now then actually is I can add this onto the backing. Let's get my glue working. Okay, now this could be 3Ds as well, but just how simple is that background? That is super simple. If I just put that onto there, that looks nice and all, but that just adds a little bit of something, and it really isn't much, is it? I really didn't need to do very much to it, but I think it just lifts the whole card. Okie dokie. So we can do that. I should have perhaps added that on, so we can add this to the back of the card. So what we have here is nothing fancy, no fancy folds on this at all, but we are letting the image do all the talking, which if you use your favourite colours and say a little bit of 3D work there, it looks lovely. Then what we can do, there we are. I've already die cut from Sparkly card, which is the Glitter Euphoria card, and die cut that onto a piece of the wood grain, which I had left over because I don't want to waste any little bit of that at all. And then we can just 3D that to the bottom of the card like so. So it's a really, really simple card to put together, but say it's just the beauty of the images, really, isn't it? That just does the work. You don't need to do anything fancy, and it comes together and it looks so lovely. And if you do that, well, I've made that 3 different times today, and each one of those looks completely different, don't they? So even if this is the only set that you have for Christmas, you can make probably 4, 5, 6 different cards to have them all looking different, completely different colorways. Yeah, I'd say the images do just work for you, and so just choose your favorite colors. I mean, I've used just the limited edition inks here. Use the inks that we have from other collections, or just use your metallic inks. I think it just works. This looks lovely, and imagine doing this in the black as well, so you'd have perhaps some 3D images on the black as well. I think it just works. It's a lovely image. It's a real classical design as well, one that I think will definitely go through and carry itself over all of the years. And these, yeah, it makes a stunning card. So hopefully you've enjoyed that today, and that was answered all your questions with regards to this set. I mean, do put your questions in the Facebook group. I can answer them, the rest of the design team can answer them, and even you answer them yourselves, don't you? You're all very much experienced using Lisa's ideas now. So yeah, it's a help each other along, and we can make some lovely Christmas cards along the way. And actually, I'm just looking at that. These flowers would be so easy to 3D themselves as well. So you could add another layer on top of that and really go to town. So yeah, that could be enhanced even more. So yeah, just another idea. The more you look at it, the more you get ideas actually. So I'll leave that with you there for you today. I think I'm back with you on Thursday. Not entirely sure what I'm doing yet, but we'll have fun along the way, I'm sure. So enjoy your rest of your afternoon, everybody, and I shall see you Thursday. Take care.